Welcome to Conversations With. My name is Shaley Hoogendoorn and I live with bipolar II disorder. Sharing with others is healing, both individually and collectively. Sharing our stories will educate others, bring more understanding, shed more light, and smash more stigma. Our voices need to be heard. Our stories aren't over yet. This is bipolar. Hi everyone, welcome back to This is Bipolar. I am beyond excited today because I have a guest that I've been trying to get on for a while. But before that, if this is your first time tuning in, my name is Shaley Hoogendoorn. I am a mama, I am an event planner, a teacher, a podcaster, a creator, and a fierce mental illness advocate. And I live with bipolar II disorder. And today I have my friend Michelle, who I've been connecting with online and watching from afar. And I would just love, welcome Michelle, for her to tell us all things we need to know. Who is Michelle?
Oh my God, I feel like I could so relate to you when you said all the things that you do. I'm like, she's a multi-passionate like me.
Yeah. Yep.
So my name's Michelle I. Gomez. I also live with bipolar disorder too. I am a multi-passionate, neurodivergent artpreneur and coach. So I coach women like me that are also neurodivergent and multi-passionate so that they could get paid to do what they love without having what I call a mentee B, a mental breakdown.
I know these things called mentee Bs.
Mentee Bs, right? I mean, I had so many of those. I'm also an artist. I am also an art teacher. I am also a podcaster. What else do I do? I'm also an event planner. I started my entrepreneurial journey starting and the first arts event planning company dedicated to curating art exhibitions for weddings.
Cool.
Yeah, that was back in 2017. That's when I started the whole like artist to artpreneur journey, as I call it.
Yeah.
So I would like to start there because
Yeah, tell me about that. And then I'd love to go back in and hear all about your diagnosis and how you got here. So do you want to work that way? Start now and work back?
yeah, let's start now. So I recently just started niching down on my audience as a coach to focus on neurodivergent women artists. Because before I was a coach to all kinds of women artists, but looking back at the 300 plus clients I've coached in the past like 3 years, I'm like, they all are on the neurodivergent spectrum, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
So you found your people. You found your people that you can help the most. I love that.
yes. I feel like I'm more comfortable coaching that audience. I can unmask,
Yes.
while I'm on calls with them. I can be myself and they understand me and I understand them. And that's why I'm here. But actually, I think it's better if I start from the beginning because it's hard for me to
Love it.
go
Yeah.
now backwards.
And also, I feel like when I said that, I'm like, I just asked Michelle to do something that, as a person that lives with bipolar disorder, is impossible to do, which is sequence. So
Yes. That's why I was like, I
just gave the illusion that we're going to do things in order of some kind of order, and that was false. So here we go. But yeah, I'd love to hear, how did it start? How did you know there was something? I'd love to hear your diagnosis story.
Yes. So for years, I didn't know that I had bipolar. And get this is why. It's because as entrepreneurs, we normalize mental illness without realizing that it's mental illness. Like the things that we do as entrepreneurs, like for example, like being hypomanic, right, is like extremely popular in the entrepreneurial community. Like just, hyper focus, like keep going, keep working, work your ass off all night. And like sell, kind of like Wolf of Wall Street, like not that drugged up, but
Yeah, no, I hear you. I
You
hear what
know,
you're saying, for sure.
like just being super, super motivational and like super obsessive about business. And that was me for years. And I didn't know I had bipolar until years later when I got the diagnosis in October 2020.
Mm.
So in 2017, so my entrepreneur journey started like this. I went from artist to artpreneur in February of 2017. I built my first arts business called Creative Unions Event Design, the event planning company I told you about. And I didn't know this was bipolar at the time. I just thought it was just, oh, I'm just an artsy person with lots of ideas. So before I started the business, I was working at a cafe. And, I was a struggling broke artist, a typical starving artist mentality. Like I
Yeah.
was 6 figures in debt with 2 art degrees under my belt. And I couldn't get jobs because of discrimination. Like back then, like now the art world is like more open about diversity and inclusion. But before, like being a Latina, like the only Latina graduating from like a curatorial practice program, it was really hard. It was really hard to get work. And anyways, I was even told at one interview, like, you're too confident. Yeah.
What?
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? I'm sorry. I'm going to go all feminist. Well, I'm not sorry, actually, but no one would say that to a dude.
No, the white dude got that job and
The
he had
white
no
dude got the
experience.
job. Urgh.
Anyways, so one day I was at this cafe. I was living
Mm.
with my mother, who I didn't realize was so dysfunctional and like abusive. So I was just like I was rock bottom, right? And I was like, asking myself, how can I get paid to do what I love? And this voice came to me on the beach when I had less than $10 in my bank account saying, why not see weddings as art exhibitions? So when I got that idea, I just started scribbling in all my notebooks and journals. And I was working at this cafe, like writing my ideas for my business on napkins. And there was no one like ordering coffee. And then Beyonce and Jay-Z came out with this music video of them, like it almost looked like a wedding at the Louvre Museum.
Yes.
And I was just like hypomanic, and I didn't know I was hypomanic.
Yeah.
But I was hypomanic AF. Like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
went nuts,
That
Shaley.
was a sign. That was a sign completely to you from whatever you believe in, God, universe. I know these signs. Like I felt like songs had been written like for me.
Yeah. 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 So I watched the video and I just like legit went crazy. I started pacing around in circles saying like I should have been Beyonce and Jay-Z's wedding planner.
Yeah.
That grandiosity that you experience when you're hypomanic and when you're ultra inspired, super creative, and you feel like you're on top of the world and you feel like you're the best. That mentality has gotten me very far in my business because I made almost $600,000, ever since I started doing business. Like that grandiosity helped, but it has its dark side, right? So I was pacing around, pacing, and almost hyperventilating.
Yeah.
I just thought that this is just me. I'm just an artist. This is who I am. I'm passionate, right? I didn't see it as a problem because I wasn't doing any harm to anyone.
Yeah.
But it's not a sustainable kind of fuel for your business,
No.
right?
Yeah.
So I spent sleepless nights building the business. I got my first $10,000 wedding client. And then a bunch of artists asked me, how did you do it? And then the voice came back, that business savvy voice said, why not be a coach? So I hired my first coach in 2018. And I went crazy, like building the coaching business. Like in my first month, and this is unheard of for coaches, in my first month, I made $13,000.
Wow.
Like cashed. Because I followed my coach's advice, but so much to the point that like I lost myself in the business and everything was about the business. Nothing else mattered. Nothing mattered. My mental health didn't matter. My sleep habits didn't matter. All I wanted was money to get out of my abusive mother's home and to be successful and to help other women artists become artpreneurs. So I had 17 clients in my first month. It was chaotic. And it just kept growing and growing and growing to a multi-6-figure business. And then I worked with I had a colleague who was a therapist who was actually toxic,
Oh
right?
no. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had a lot of toxic relationships behind the scenes in my business because I was, like I tell my clients, what is familiar is familial, right? So what felt
Mm.
familiar to me mirrored my dysfunctional family dynamics,
So you're
which
drawn towards it. It's like normal. I think of that as like comfortable, like you're comfortable in discomfort, right?
exactly,
Yeah.
because your nervous system would rather keep the same energetic patterns consistently rather than changing them to be more peaceful.
Yeah.
So I had like a bunch of toxic relationships, even though I was coaching others on their toxic relationships, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It
And,
makes
and
sense.
coaches,
It really
yeah,
does.
yeah, it makes sense. We have to practice what we preach. So I had this toxic colleague who worked for me. She was a therapist, and even though she was toxic, she did like point out like I might have a problem.
Mm.
And she suggested I seek out a psychiatrist. And I was in the middle of my most intense group coaching program. It was at the peak of my business when I was making like $30,000 cash months, which I've never seen that kind of money before because I didn't grow up with money. I grew up with a single mom, right, in a Latin household in Miami. And in the middle of that program, which was really high touch in the coaching industry, is called high touch, meaning like your clients pay a lot of money to get a lot of access to you, right?
Okay.
And yeah, and I was basically a master coach coaching artist coaches and training them, right, in this program called the Artist Coach School. So in the middle of that program, I met with a psychiatrist. And looking back, I don't wish any entrepreneur would do what I did. Like, I don't want entrepreneurs to get a diagnosis like that, like in the middle of like a really important business
Yeah.
program, because it changes your whole world.
Yeah.
It shakes up your whole world. So I saw the psychiatrist. It's crazy how like within an hour they can figure out what's wrong with you by asking you a bunch of questions. So she asked me about my history. She asked me about like my history of trauma, and she said, "Yep, you're pretty traumatized. Yeah, you show the symptoms. You have bipolar disorder too." And I was like, "What? Me? Bipolar?
Yeah.
Like,
And it wasn't even on your radar at all.
no, not out. I would never have guessed it
Yeah. Yeah.
because I was the crazy artist,
Yeah.
like just
Yeah.
passionate."
That's so interesting. You just made me think of, I had a conversation last night. I'm doing this series called Suicide Survivor Stories. And Sarah, who's an artist, she's a singer, songwriter, musician. She does like nail art. She has like cool nails. Anyways, she
Nail
was
art.
talking. Yeah, it was really cool. And
Sorry about my dog. We're in a hotel. She's just,
oh, don't even worry.
yeah.
Mine's in the background. I didn't even hear actually.
Oh, okay.
Um, so she was talking about that, like when she was having suicidal thoughts or suicidal ideation or reaching out or all of that, that it's very much yeah, it's like, oh, the artist, right? It's like, well, yes, and also why are we not helping? Like we'll allow that, like someone she was saying that she knew had put out a song about an attempt or this or that, and yes, the music's beautiful and we consume it, but why are we not checking in? Like, are we not, like, it's just almost like, yeah, it's almost like artists have to struggle to be able to make art. And I don't think that's necessarily entirely true. Anyways, I went off on a tangent, but it was like,
No,
yeah,
it's not
she
a
said that
tangent.
last night. Yeah.
It's totally relevant, Shaley. And
So less likely to get help, right? That's what scares me. Less likely because you're like, oh, it's supposed to be this way.
exactly, exactly. And I dealt with suicidal ideation, but I just thought that I was just a very passionate person who felt a lot of things.
Same. I thought like wanting, I didn't think that it was considered suicidal ideation because I didn't want to like die, but I'm like, I just want to go to sleep like until things get better, or if they don't, forever. Do you know what I mean? Like I
Exactly.
didn't think so. So yeah, I love this conversation about the not, yeah, you had no idea because you thought of this as a part of your identity as an artist. Did you, before you keep going, did you ever have before your diagnosis depressive episodes?
I can't remember.
Mm.
And I think that's another thing that us with bipolar deal with is like brain fog. Like I can't remember a lot of things.
Wow.
Actually, I can't remember a lot from my childhood either.
Wow. That's
Because I
hard.
think I've dealt with so much trauma in my life that I just like push it under a rug, and I just get so focused on the future.
Yeah.
The future I remember in childhood, my future was my fantasy, is my escapism.
Yeah.
You know, like dreaming about being a powerful boss bitch woman with like a
Yeah.
pantsuit
A
and
pantsuit.
briefcase and coffee in your hand, and you're on the phone and you're like, blah, 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 you know,
Yeah. Yeah. You're like,
like
I'm going to be that.
I'm gonna be that. Like I wanted to be a curator like Charlotte from Sex and the City.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I went to grad school for that. But yeah, I think I had depressive episodes, but they I guess I was just so focused on working that I just worked through it.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
wasn't the kind of depressive episodes that, where you're in like actually, you know what? Yes, now I'm remembering. Yes. So after I graduated from art school, so did you know that they say that bipolar symptoms start to come up in your 20s, like
Yeah.
for many people?
Yeah.
They say the age 25 is when a lot of symptoms come up. So yes, after I graduated from school, I went into depression immediately right after the graduation.
The
And
change.
I would be in bed all the time.
Yeah. And you brought up a really good important point, because I think that I always say I hate the word high functioning, because I just think it's like hierarchical and stupid, but it's the only word that's accessible right now to me to explain this. But I think, because you're right, depression doesn't always mean in bed, unable to do things. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're
I
right.
always got up and I went to my university classes, and but the moment I got home, I was like, I did the bare minimum that I had to do, because, and it doesn't mean like, oh, because she's better at doing depression. It's the different, you know what I mean? Like the different levels, or what you're like as a person. I'm an overfunctioner in traumatic times and in hard times. And so, yeah, my doctor flat out said, and your listeners are probably, so if you've been here forever, you probably hear this like every episode, but as you can see, I have not got over it. But my doctor, like 7 years earlier, when I brought the bipolar diagnosis, like brought it to him, been like trying to be not a Google doctor, but also like, hey, I really identify with all of this. And he was like, yeah, you wouldn't have a degree or kids or a husband. That's what he said to me. I didn't
Whoa.
get diagnosed till 7 years later. 7 years of my life. I could have missed 7 depressions. So yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so so that is important that you say that, because also everyone's like, oh, well, think it's better that when you can mask better, but actually, you get diagnosed later, or you suffer longer, or you suffer, and they're not comparable. It's all suffering. But if people are listening that don't live with a mood disorder, just know that depression doesn't always look like you think it is. And you know what I learned, and this happens with me too, is that depression sometimes looks like anger.
Ooh, Shaley. So that just reminded me, wow, you just unpacked something.
Sorry, no.
No, I love it. I love this shit. I love going deep.
Me too.
No, you just made me realize, it just hit me right now that like depression looks like anger. And I was very angry after school. And that anger was very productive because I became an arts activist. And I was very like angry about diversity, inclusion issues, racism, discrimination. And I remember trauma bonding with other activists in the arts community and just always complaining and sitting in grief and depression and despair and using anger as the fuel to get shit done. And I would do like tons of passion projects,
Yeah.
which don't bring a return financially.
Yeah.
You just do them as an artist, and you just beg for money through crowdfunding campaigns or grants. I was a broke, struggling artist, like being an activist before I became an artpreneur. When I started Creative Unions Event Design in 2017, I became a business owner because I had no choice, because I was tired of being sick and tired and being broke and doing passion projects and being angry all the time about arts activism. It's like, I needed joy in my life. I needed to do something I loved. And weddings were fun.
Yeah, they
And
are.
they made me good money, you know?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, anger, like, no wonder, because anger is a form of depression, but it functions differently in your body. Like, you actually
Exactly.
do things with it. Like, I wasn't like, yeah, I was in bed a lot, but not like for weeks, you know. I would like do stuff. I was,
Yeah.
yeah, high functioning, as you say. I
Yeah.
know it's a terrible phrase, but that's all we have in our vocabulary bank right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's like, thank you, Shaley.
Oh, you're welcome.
You're not only a mental illness advocate, you also help peel onion layers through these conversations. And these conversations are a form of activism. Like, we're teaching people through these raw conversations about our lived experiences. You know, we're using our lived experiences to teach and educate and raise awareness so that others can be like, did I go through that? That's an
Right.
interesting nugget.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a
Wow.
hard one for, um, it was a hard one for me to start talking about, just because also, like, I was a part of, I mean, I still go, but I'm not, I was a part of like the really fundamentalist evangelical church for a long time. Now
Mhm.
it's mine. I'm a woman of faith and it's very open. It's not the tight space I used to be in, but it's like, you're not, as a woman, like, anger, like, to be angry. And like, I just, and same with you, like, and I still, I have like this fierce, like a sense of justice, and get involved, like, at protests, and do you know what I mean, doing all the things that I can, as an ally, because I'm white cisgender women, right, to come alongside other things. And then and I was just like, I was speaking for like, I pictured myself speaking about human trafficking or doing these things because I love being on stage, um and all these things. And then it was like, actually, here's your lane, you're going to talk about this. And I was like, well, no, that's not really glamorous. Like, I don't really want to talk about mental illness. I don't really, I wanted something more, not that those hard issues are glamorous, but people would be like, oh, that's so cool that you talk about that. And at that time, and still now, it's like, oh, you're talking about like scary kind of serious mental illness kind of things. So I don't know where I started with that. Oh yeah, the anger. So it wasn't really, I didn't really talk about it a lot. And then it would mostly like be in my home with my husband. I was able to like not with, hold it together with my kids. 'Cause, like, I'm a teacher, elementary school teacher. I do that, but my husband or like my mom would see the brunt of my fierce words, right? And so to talk about that, and to talk about how, and find out that it is a bipolar symptom, and that there are heaps and heaps of people that feel the same way, where it's like, they say walk away or take, breaths and all those things. I do all those things, but I can't describe how this rage can come over. And then when
Yes.
it's gone, you look around and you're like, what was I so upset about? And who do I have to apologize to? And it's very scary. Do you experience those anger, those, like, the rage that comes over?
Yes. And unfortunately, my partner, my boyfriend, has seen that. It's those who love us the most and are closest to us that see the other side of the
So
coin.
hard. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was so bad that he almost thought about leaving me.
Yeah.
But, right now we're in Sarasota in a hotel. I'm in a hotel. He's a photographer.
Mm.
So we're here in Sarasota. We're based in Miami, but we're in Sarasota for his work. And whenever we're on vacation or we have like a romantic moment with quality time, I always tell him, thank you for
Mm.
sticking it out and being patient and not taking it so personally when I
Yeah.
lashed out or when I had my symptoms. Because we're still here, we're still together, and there's so much to be experienced as a couple now that we're over that hump. He's very grateful that I'm stable now. And I'm very grateful. Like I have a great psychiatrist. We finally, since 2020, finally figured out the medication concoction that is
that's
not
hard.
making me so sleepy. Because you know, so let me go back to
Let's go
the
back.
diagnosis.
Yeah.
And I'll explain the adventures of the medication. But
Yeah.
when I got the diagnosis, there is this deep shame and deep depression, because out of all the mental illnesses I could have had, it's like bipolar, like that one, like that one's crazy. Like that's the one that you see on in movies that people are like, you know, like really scary.
Yeah, it's considered one of the, even though I think they're all serious, they're like more severe. That's what it's called, with schizophrenia and borderline, I think. I'm not positive.
Yeah, I would agree. And so when I first went on the medication, what we don't talk about is how when you first get on a medication regimen, you are more likely to experience suicidal thoughts. Because your brain is adjusting to the new chemistry.
Yes, you are so right.
Yeah. So I went on the medication, and then at first it was like, wow, I can't hear voices in my head. And I was like, wait, is this how normal people navigate the world?
Yeah.
Like neurotypical people have quiet minds. Excuse me? And so one night I closed my laptop, because I usually don't have good boundaries with my business. Like I could keep going. I closed my laptop and I just like looked around my apartment, and I was like, wow, the colors of the walls, the furniture. Wow. I was like very mindful, and I didn't hear any voices. And so that was good. But
you were like present in the present moment. It's hard for me to be in the present moment. Okay. Totally. I need to just, whoa, you just dropped an amazing bomb of goodness. That's one of the reasons why people stop or don't continue on the meds. That is because it makes you feel worse at first, right?
yes,
so you don't keep going. And that's so true, because it does make you feel worse. But I never thought of this idea that you might feel suicidal or have suicidal thoughts. And it's true, because you've got this whole grappling with that, you have this diagnosis and this scary B word or whatever your diagnosis is, and your brain is trying to chemically change with this medication. Wow.
yeah,
that's so powerful for our listeners to hear. So hold on, give
hold
some
on.
medication a chance. It might not be the perfect one, but I know there are people in undiagnosed folks in my family that, it gets to crisis, gets help, gets meds, doesn't like how it feels, goes off meds, doesn't follow through. Right?
Doesn't follow.
Yeah.
And then they go back to their symptoms with
a
new diagnosis. And then because a new diagnosis takes a toll on your mental health.
That is a trauma. That's what my
therapist trauma. Yes.
That is a trauma. And I was like, whoa.
Yes. I was coaching my clients in my membership. So I have a membership for neurodivergent, multi-passionate women artists, and we focus on our mental health through mental health workshops every month, and we do body doubling every month, and we have monthly group calls. And I was telling one of them, I was like, you've gone through like the medical system so many times for so many different reasons, and that's a trauma within itself. Is like you getting diagnoses, your kids getting diagnosed, so when I told her, acknowledge that it's a micro trauma, she's so relieved. She's like, thank you, So I was traumatized with the diagnosis in the middle of my most expensive, high touch coaching program some of my clients didn't understand why I had to take time off from the program because my psychiatrist was like, you need a break, a week-long break, an emergency break, because you're suicidal right now. So she told me to take a week off and take a break. And then the medication started working again, but it would go through ups and downs. And then my business went downhill, Shaley. After I was at the peak of $30,000 a month. so unfair. I was like, I became a master coach. I hate the word master, but I became a master coach. And then boom, this diagnosis. So I went downhill, and then I pivoted and I created a new brand and a new program called the Mental Wealth Network.
Wow.
Which is my membership focused on mental health for women artists. And then I went through this deep depression after the diagnosis. That I was so ashamed of all the coaching programs I built while being undiagnosed bipolar. I wanted to burn them all to the ground.
How
So I
come?
stopped doing because I was like, well, if the bipolar me created that program, then it's not legit.
Oh.
Even though all my clients were very happy and I like impacted over 300 lives and changed their lives and businesses, like they loved it. And they were there. My community was confused there because I was showing up online less. Then one day I just like took a break because I fell into this another toxic relationship with a toxic narcissist sociopath business coach.
Oh no.
Who took advantage of me and made me like encouraged me to get off my meds. So I got off my meds, went into another hypomanic episode, worked for him on his business ideas for free, like went nuts. He like dated my best friend and like abused both of us. And I no longer talk to her,
I'm
which is
so
sad because I lost a
sorry.
best friend. So that was just like that then led to this domino effect of like me like going nuts like over Christmas, because Christmas brings up the holidays in general brings up a lot of triggers for many people. So I was hypomanic, off my meds, in this abusive relationship, trying to get out from this coaching relationship. And then my boyfriend's mother came into town, and then I lashed out on her because I was off my meds. And that was the first time I met her. And it was
Oh,
so
shucks.
embarrassing.
Yes.
So embarrassing because now it's like, oh wow, my son's girlfriend is bipolar and she's acting like a fucking bitch. Like, what?
And then it plays into what people's stereotypes might not even know that they have within them because of what they've seen. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
yeah,
Oh
especially
my
from
goodness.
Latin American families. Like they're from Venezuela, so like
Okay.
they like bipolar is like new to my boyfriend still. He reads about
Right.
it, like he has no idea. So I went downhill. I stopped my business for a year and a half, Shaley,
Yeah, I
and
saw
I
that you
didn't
were
feel.
saying that. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
interested, just one thing before I want to hear about the rest, but uh, you bring up something that's really interesting to me about your terrible, horrible coach. A lot of people that don't like, people don't understand that bipolar folks can be taken advantage of really easily because people don't realize it, but they want you when you're hypomanic because
Oh
you
yeah.
get shit done and you do
Right.
a lot, and you have a lot of ideas, and you're like a magnet. People gravitate towards you because you don't have, inhibitions about your ideas, right? Whereas normally sometimes we get a little, get a little nervous about our ideas. And so I just think that's really important. I bet you there's someone out there thinking, having people that encourage them to be off their meds because they're actually profiting from them.
Shit. I didn't think about that. That's
Yeah.
something else for me to. That's a second mind blown effect. Shaley blows minds.
But it just, I think about it too, like even like so I have a sick family member, and so I'm staying in my childhood room when I go back to my hometown to see the person that's in the hospital. And so lots of memories and things have been coming back to me, and I had this one where realized that every single relationship I had started when I was more hypomanic, and then they always broke up with me when I was depressed
Oh my God.
because I wasn't and it's not, what people don't understand is, yeah, well, it doesn't last. And there's another side that people don't see. Anyways, I want to hear, but I was just like, you know what? Some people that are unkind can totally take advantage. There's also, I forget who I was talking about, said that folks with bipolar are also more susceptible to cults, just because when we're all in. And I was like, Totally. Do you
So
know how many MLMs or whatever those things are?
MLMs, yeah.
Yeah. That because I got it, I would get excited about a candle. Next thing you know, they're like, yeah, she's excited. She's fun. She can sell anything. Because when I get excited about something, I tell the world. And so, yeah, I was
And that
thinking,
makes you good at business. Like, I feel like
yeah,
being bipolar makes you such a good salesperson
totally,
because you
totally.
can persuade anyone with your hypomanic high.
Yeah. And
I call
because
it
you
the
believe
hypomanic
in
high.
it so deeply, right? When I do. And it's managed now because of my medication and whatever. So now I can pick and choose or whatever. But I wonder, and this is a question for you, I wonder if there's a lot of us that are completely held back because we end up doing that for others, because it's hard to do it for ourselves. I'm finding even for me, like the podcast does really well and the Instagram does really well. And I just am so terrified to like actually monetize it, or do you know what I mean? And so I just keep going and giving, like I can build other accounts, or I've helped other people, like you said, all for freezies, and I talk and speak for free because I can promote anyone, but it's very hard for me to do it for myself right now.
Well, that's why, I would encourage you to go from artist to artpreneur. And what it takes to go from artist to artpreneur is to realize that your skills, even when you have a mental illness, are still valuable. And because you have a mental illness, you deserve even more money than a neurotypical person, because we need more money for those depressive moments when we can't function. We need money sitting there taking care of us as a safety net when we can't function.
Yeah,
So
and medication and therapy and
coaching and all of that therapy. It's so healing trauma is so expensive.
yes. And that's why there are so many traumatized folks out there.
Yeah. So yeah, you're right. Like my coach took advantage of my hypomania and my naivete and my deep desire for deep connection and deep mutual understanding from a coach. Like he pulled me in and lured me in because he's like, I get it. Like he was also hypomanic. I think he was also bipolar too, but he was like, yeah, like he was on top of the world and grandiose. And I was like, shit, I'm grandiose too if I'm with him. Like we could be grandiose together.
We're gonna take over the world.
Literally, he had us thinking we're going to take over the world. He was also cultish. Like he was trying to start like a legit cult, but he said it wasn't a cult. And people who say, oh, I'm going to start this group, but believe me, it's not a cult.
It's probably
It's a cult. It's a cult. It's a cult.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that went downhill. And then I almost broke up with my boyfriend almost broke up with me because obviously like I was arguing with his mother over the holidays. And then he got COVID. And then she had to fly back to Venezuela, even though she hadn't seen him in years. She had to fly back not only because he had COVID, but because I was going crazy. So we almost broke up, but we stayed together. We went through therapy. And then I took a 1.5 year long break and my community had no idea why I just ghosted them on the internet. And I was getting messages from my community. I love you guys. Asking me how I was doing, but I wouldn't respond. So then I, changed my meds, got back and now I'm stable.
Yeah. What did that year look like? Like, was it just taking care of yourself? What did it, just going and then trying the different meds? Or tell me about that. Tell me about that year if you're willing.
Well, I went through a deep depression because this is, I'm going to talk a little bit about the nervous system and money mindset. So I had just gotten, during that crazy holiday episode, I had just gotten my first one-on-one client that paid the most money ever to me. It was a $30,000 contract in full.
Wow.
And I never had seen that kind of, even though I got like $30,000 cash months before, I've never seen that kind of money come into my bank account at once. And I fell into this deep depression because of the shame from the holidays and the hypomania and the episode, but also because my nervous system couldn't tolerate that kind of success because of what's called our window of tolerance, right? So our window of tolerance can only tolerate what we've been comfortable with our whole lives based off our socioeconomic status, our race, our ethnicity, our gender, our assigned gender at birth, and yeah, I just like, once I got that $30,000 client, I was like, my subconscious limiting beliefs was like, you can't keep up this business, you can't keep selling those, you might as well just shut down. So I just closed my doors after I coached her. And I was depressed, working a lot with my medications and my psychiatrist. I got a job, a job, as I tell my audience, job, because neurodivergent artists don't like jobs. We don't like jobs. We don't like being told what to do. We don't like,
or we get jobs where we're in charge. So that's why I like teaching.
So get this, I got a job. Oh my God, this is the first time I'm telling the public. No one in my community knows this, but
oh my gosh, I'm excited.
I got a job, working retail at Anthropology.
Did you get a discount?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I got really excited. I may have a shopping problem. I'm just saying. It may be my coping mechanism not healthy. I'm just saying.
When I'm hypomanic and I have money, Anthropology is like, oh my God, it's heaven. Anthropology is the best.
Yeah.
So I worked there and I was miserable for like 6 months. I didn't tell anyone because
I feel embarrassed. Is that why you didn't tell someone? Because you were like, yeah.
Because I was the coach that just sold a $30,000 package. What the fuck am I doing working at Anthropology?
Yeah.
Because I wanted to burn all my coaching programs to the ground. Remember I told you that? So,
and you probably, I'm curious if you thought, or your body knew, or something, that doing that where you can just show up, do something, go, and that you're not entirely, it's almost like you didn't have the brain energy or whatever that you're not in charge of this being successful. You just go and do something, and so that you can give all your energy to healing what's going on. Yeah.
But my boyfriend was very proud of me because I was in my most depressive moments then, because I was so ashamed and so traumatized and so sad. And he said, you got that job because you needed to experience what it's like to be humble, because I was that rich entrepreneur. Like, I don't know what it means to be rich. I don't know how much money you need to have to be rich, but a lot of people told me I was rich when I was a coach back then. And so I came down to earth in that job, and I was told what to do. I got in trouble because I'm neurodivergent. I can't follow instructions clearly. I feel like us neurodivergent people, we don't like authority.
Yeah. Or like, okay, don't tell me what to do and exactly how to do it, because I could do it, but I'll probably find a different way.
Yes, exactly. Because we're creative, So then after that job, I then got another job as an art teacher. And I started working full-time there, but then I got
littles or big kids or littles or
all of them, all ages, K through 8. Yeah, 2nd grade through 8th grade. I loved it, but again, I didn't like waking up and being told what to do every day. I didn't like the schedule because I was used to my entrepreneurial schedule, waking up whenever I wanted as a coach. But I loved teaching. And then that led me to teaching at another summer camp in the Interlochen Center for the Arts, which is like a prestigious arts camp in school.
Fun.
And so I explored that. But then, when I healed and I got stable and I haven't had an episode ever since, I was like, okay, I think I could go back to my coaching business. And I'm clearer, I'm stronger, and I haven't had an episode in a long time. And I know I can maintain the business and not spend all the money that I made before, because I made over $500,000 and I spent it all.
Yeah.
On contractors, on coaching, on shopping, stupid shit, like massages. Like, yes, massages are good, but I overdid it.
Yeah. I'm curious. So stable since last year, and you said, like, because I'm always trying to talk to folks about this. I'm curious about a lot of things, but this is aside, but the definition of coach, because I feel like, do I do some of that? Anyways,
I was gonna say you'd be good at it because you are natural at it. Like I see it in you.
Oh, because I was just like, wait a minute. But I'm curious. So moving forward, because we know that there will be episodes again. I love that you said it's going to be sustainable. So I'm curious, do you have things in place, or you just have like know in your toolbox what you will do if you get this or that to be able to sustain your business? Do you have, tell me about
Yes.
that. How does that look for you? Or
Yeah. So I stopped the teaching and I decided that I wanted to do the teaching as a business. And now I'm back in coaching full time.
Mhm.
I just sold out my first mini, I called it a mini mind. So like I reorganized all my coaching programs to make them, you know, more flexible. No, I changed my coaching contracts and programs so that they're shorter. So I don't spend too much time with the same client. Because I don't want to get into another episode.
Ah,
I revived all my old business coaching programs. So now I have Artist to Artpreneur, which is business coaching for neurodivergent artists. And then I have my Mental Wealth Network membership, which is all about mental health. And now that I'm stable, I'm like clear
yeah.
because like I mapped out my business on this software called Milanote. Like you can map out thoughts and things like that.
Ooh,
And now I know that like I'm on the right medication. I meet with my psychiatrist instead of monthly appointments. I do bi-monthly.
nice.
No, every 2 months. Yeah, that's bi-monthly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, every
Math
two
is
months.
hard. Math is hard. That sounds
Math is hard
crazy.
for us, you know. Uh I also my partner is like very, very aware of like what triggers me. So
Okay, that's
he
amazing.
watches out for
Yeah.
me. I take my medications every single day.
Mhm.
Every day. Because if I miss them, then I get hypomanic.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Um,
how do you do, because this is, I find the hardest one. You were saying that you didn't like teaching because it boxed you in. So I'm a substitute teacher. So it's perfect
really,
because I go in when I want. So because I do all these things, podcasts, and all my other stuff for free. That so then I'm like, well, I have to go to work somehow. So I'll go when I want, and then I'm there and I'm in charge, and I'm super fun for the day. And so I've found a way to make that, because I was like, oh, did I waste my entire degree? Like it almost killed me because I wasn't diagnosed to get this degree. And so that's how I've found a way to use it. But if I don't have to, I never want to teach full time again. And not because I don't love teaching littles, it's because of the whole, it's too tight and fixed and times and too much. I don't
it's
I
too much. You have to go in every day as a teacher. That exhausted me.
Yeah, yeah. So how do you do for, because I know one of the biggest things with mood disorders is sleep. And I know like you said with artists, and I know you said because you can set your own schedule, are you regimented? How do you deal with the sleep?
Yeah, so my psychiatrist actually lowered my mood stabilizer dose
Yeah.
because I complained that it had me sleeping too much.
Okay.
So now I sleep a little less, but my boyfriend every night reminds me, stop looking at the phone, put on your jazz music. I listen to the same jazz playlist. It's called, look this up if you're listening to this.
Yeah, yeah.
Jazz in the background on Spotify.
Jazz in the background.
Jazz in the background. It has thousands of jazz songs that you just play in the background and they're really soothing. So I listen to that. I turn off the phone or I do like a hypnosis or a meditation.
Yeah.
And I try and go to sleep every night by like 10, 11.
Nice.
And then I wake up, because I'm an entrepreneur again, I wake up like around 11, 12. So
Yeah.
I sleep like 12 hours.
Yeah.
That's how my body functions, because I need a lot of sleep.
Yeah.
Especially from all that trauma my whole life. Like you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Oh, I know. I remember like if I didn't have to get up and take my kids some places, if I didn't, my natural clock would be more like 12:01 till 12,
yep,
right? Or even
yep.
when, like, for example, when I first I'm not going to say who they are. Hold on. They might listen. People that I know that I met in my life that stayed in our home, guests. Um, I got the vibe that they thought that I was like lazy. Now that my girls are older, that on Saturday I wouldn't get up till 10 or 11 or maybe noon or whatever. But what they didn't, my husband had to explain, like, she's not doing this because she's lazy. And by the way, anybody can sleep to that time and isn't lazy, but also she takes like very heavy medication that, do you know what I mean? Like she needs this. And I felt like, I think half of it is in my head, where I think self-stigmatizing that I'm lazy. I can't just get up. An early bird gets the stupid worm or whatever that BS is. Worms are gross. But like I felt a lot of guilt about that. And then I'm like, in the same thought, I'm like, yeah, but you know what? I could probably get done what you've done in 3 hours and 45 minutes. So I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Oh my God. I had to lecture my boyfriend a lot and like teach him like, this is not because I'm lazy. This is because I'm on medications. Look up the medications.
Well,
I'm
and
on
it's so
duloxetine
hard.
and olanzapine.
Yeah. And the part too, I was telling my husband, sometimes I think I would get met with more, or we would get met with more empathy if it was like my symptom was I am nonstop bleeding, or I have blood sugar, or something that needs to be attended to that people can see, right? Then how unfair is it that some of our symptoms are anger, that some of our symptoms, do you know what I mean? So you don't get sympathy for that, and then you're also like blamed for it. And of course it's double, because yes, I am responsible for my actions, and also it is 50 million times harder for me than it is someone who is not neurodivergent. You know what I mean? It doesn't have, and so I feel like it takes that much more energy for me in a day to, do you know what I mean? To show up in certain ways and follow certain expectations and not, hurt people's feelings or whatever. And I just like, people don't feel sorry for you when you're in a rage or angry. And it's like, literally, I'm not an angry person. Like, I don't want to be angry. It's just, it's so hard to explain. Do you hear what I'm saying?
I hear exactly what you're saying. I think we need to just educate people and let them know, like, because we sleep in. Okay, first off, why does the whole world think that you're doing good if you wake up early?
I know. Capitalism.
Right? It's because we prioritize productivity over anything. And because we're not productive while we're sleeping, technically we are productive because our bodies are resting, our cells are regenerating. Doesn't mean that we're lazy.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like that year and a half, I did sleep a lot when I worked at Anthropology and when I worked as an art teacher. But you know what? I had to take that break. And I tell all my neurodivergent clients, like, if you need a break from your business, do it and don't feel ashamed. Because this is what Steve Jobs says. The only way to connect the dots is by looking back. And I was able to look back, even though I worked these jobs I didn't like. I mean, I loved art. I love teaching. It's so cool. It's so cool. But I was able to take time and look back at my business and connect the dots and be like, this is why this didn't work. This is why this worked. This is what I like. This is what I don't like. And I redesigned my entire business, Shaley, in that year and a half. And I went on Milanote and I mapped it out. And I said, I'm pivoting to focus on neurodivergent women artists. Neurotypical artists are welcome into my programs. And they like my programs because I put an emphasis on mental health, because we all have mental health.
Bam!
We all have it. So if you're neurotypical or neurodivergent, it's good to get a coach that understands mental health and has been through all this shit, So yeah, like that's my journey. Now I'm starting again. I'm not at 6 figures. I'm starting from 0 again, but I'm happier, Shaley. I'm going to get there slowly. I'll get to 6 figures slowly, not hypomanically. Like I'll take my sweet ass time so that I don't trigger the bipolar symptom of being impulsive. When you get a lot of money, you either you spend it all or you just fall asleep because you can't handle.
Yeah. And you can sustain, right? Instead of like, we get used to this on top of the world or down here. And I remember, and to this day, I have to really work on it because I'm very self-stigmatized about like productivity, because I compare my productivity to my highest point of productivity when I was sick, right? I'm like, you only got this done today. And then I'm like, I have to remind myself, I have to be a detective. What does the average person get done in a day? What does it? And then I'm like, oh yeah, that's completely unsustainable. I didn't sleep. That's why I got it done. Right. So I think that's really beautiful. I loved when I was looking at your page, or when you started popping back up in my feed. I just thought it was so powerful to share, what you went through. I feel like so many people have had to, especially folks with bipolar disorder, mood disorders, have had to build back up, or have had times of, that they've had to take from themselves. And I just think it must have been hard, right? And it must have been like, hard to just come and be like, this is what happened, and even hard for you to pull away. But I just think that you're giving permission for other people to do the same. And I don't know why, but it's like we almost kill, ourselves trying to look and be and, produce. And it's just, if we can't take care of ourselves, that's why, folks with mood disorders, they burn out so quickly.
So quickly. And you're right. Like, we do measure our success and productivity based off our highest points of productivity while we were sick, and so many entrepreneurs do that. And here's a scary statistic that helped me create the Mental Wealth Network membership, which is focused more on mental health. Dr. Michael Freeman, who's now a colleague of mine, and I'm going to interview him for my podcast. He studied entrepreneurs, and he found out that 72% of entrepreneurs are directly or indirectly affected by mental health struggles. So when he says indirectly, it means that a lot of us are undiagnosed. We don't know it.
Mm-hmm.
When you see that entrepreneur having sleepless nights and talking fast and building multiple businesses at once and making millions of dollars, they look successful on the outside, but
peel back the curtain. What's going on?
What's going on? What's the fuel running that engine? Is it high octane fuel?
Yeah.
Which is not healthy.
No. And I think, too, I forget. And especially because I haven't had since my medication, haven't had like one of those high hypomanic episodes. You forget, like, don't you find when you're not in a hypomanic episode, I only remember the good part. And my husband's like, do you remember the irritability? Do you remember this? And I'm just like, because depression feels so terrible, or sometimes just being euthymic or symptom free doesn't feel as good, I romanticize it. And then I totally understand. Don't recommend it. I think people do need to understand it so that they don't do it. But I understand why someone would thinks about going off their meds, because it feels like if you could bottle up just the feeling, but I forget all the terrible things of hypomania.
You're almost making me cry right now. That's three mind blown moments by Shaley. Shaley really blows our minds. Yeah, no, that got me emotional because I don't remember the dark sides of hypomania. I just remember the high. I don't know what it's like to be coked out, but I almost think that being hypomanic is like being on coke.
Well, that they've and I don't know, I'm not very sciencey, but do you know they've shown different brain scans, and y'all write me if it's a fake, but that it can light up the same areas that doing drugs can. I've seen that.
And I think that's why we don't remember the irritability or the, slamming doors. I've done that. Ooh.
I throw stuff, not at people, but I just if too much stuff's on my desk, And I don't like being reminded of those things, but I have this one, one place where I've written down, like, for me to remember, and not to shame myself or to feel bad, but to remember when I start to think like, because being depressed is so terrible, you think that hypomania is better because it has a little bit of things that are better, but you forget that it has its own terribleness, right? Or it's better until it's not. And hypomania is not good for relationships, long-term relationships.
Nope. I remember when I first started dating my boyfriend, I was just diagnosed bipolar.
Wow.
And I was hypomanic when I first met him. I was hypomanic when I first dated any guy.
Same.
And he would sleep over, and he said that I would wake up at 4 a.m, go out for a run, come back, and talk to him while he was sleeping really fast.
Yeah. Wow.
And he'd be like, "Can you please shut up? I'm trying to sleep."
It's like, what are we doing? What? Yeah. Yeah. That's so interesting. I actually take that back. My husband, I wasn't hypomanic, actually. And I think maybe that was a good thing, but all the rest. Yeah. 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 And the talking, it's almost, I used to say to my husband, like, I kind of almost wish I didn't know, because it's the worst when you're doing it and you're doing it and you can't stop. Like, I'm thinking, stop talking, like, slow down, all these, but you can't. It's almost like, I know that all the therapists say that and I get it. It's totally better to be self-aware, but sometimes I'm like, I wish I wasn't self-aware, and I just go with it, because it's like a double whammy to try and have to manage what's happening and then your judgment from afar, right? I feel like now I'm dealing with both.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild.
Both.
Wow, what a powerful story, friend. I am so grateful that you are here. I'm so grateful you're back on the internet. I'm so grateful you're doing your things. I'm like, sign me up for everything. Everything.
You should sign up for
take all my money. Take all my money. I sign me up. I love it.
I want to make you an artpreneur.
Oh,
I think you have everything that it takes. Like, yeah. Let's go into that conversation for your subscribers, right? About like all the other symptoms that mainstream culture and society doesn't talk about.
Yes. We are going to do that. For you that have been here for a while, I've been talking about Patreon, but I'm going to pivot a bit, and Instagram has finally offered, this is bipolar account, subscriptions. So I just set it up. I was like, I'm not going to talk about this anymore. I just set it up, and I'm already on there all the time, and I've got some really cool extra content, and I just want to connect deeper with people. And one of the things that I'm doing is having going deeper conversations with each of the podcast guests. So Michelle and I are going to talk about exactly that, the symptoms that we don't talk about and the way that we can harness them to doing cool stuff. And I'm just so excited. This was such a beautiful morning. I've been having a pretty rough September, and you were a light to my September, Michelle. And I'm so grateful. And I say this to probably every guest, and I mean it with every fiber of my being. We are now best friends.
Oh my God. I'm so glad that you're in my life now, Shaley. Like, I'm so glad we're friends. Like, I'm so glad that we met on this beautiful, internet, like social media thing. Like, I remember when you first started, I messaged you. I was like, oh my God, I'm starting like a new membership. Like, I like, you're inspiring me. Like, I want to just, it was so cool to see someone speaking about me and focusing on bipolar disorder. Cause I don't know many people that just have conversations about this disorder alone.
Yeah. It's one of the hardest things I've ever done, but one of the most beautiful and healing spaces that there's ever been. If you would have told me 10 years ago, you're going to talk on the interwebs about living with what used to be your shame story about having mental illness, and I would have been like, yeah, no. And it's more beautiful than selling the candles. That's for sure. That's for sure. So thank you, thank you, thank you. We are going to put, Michelle's going to send me all the links to all the things that she does and where to find her. And you are all going to go and follow her immediately. And you are going to watch all her reels and look at her feed. And let me tell you, you don't even have to know she's an artist to know she's an artist when you look at her feed. The colors, it's like beautiful and vibrant, just like you. And I'm just, it's such a fun space. I look in on it all the time. And
Thank you. There's going to be more raccoon content.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And I send it to my daughter because she's afraid of raccoons. So I think it's hilarious. My teenage daughter. But yeah, so thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm excited to go into our next conversation, and I hope our people here will come listen to that and support the both of us, because we are just, we're trying our best to smash stigma around mental illness and bipolar disorder, and we know that we can do hard things together.
Yes.
And
so subscribe to Shaley's channel. Follow me at Michelle I Gomez. That's where it happens. You're gonna see more raccoon content because that's my hyperfixation, and I feel like they're like the perfect mascot for neurodivergent women artists.
I love it. I love it. I'm here for it. I'm here for it. And because Michelle and I are best friends, you will see us collaborating in some way, because we just will have to.
Yeah.
So that'll be awesome. Well, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I hope that everyone is in a space today where they can take care of themselves, and just know that if you are someone struggling right now, we see you, we hear you, and we are in this together.
Heart. Love.
Heart. This is bipolar. Thanks again for tuning in. You can find video versions of This is Bipolar on our YouTube channel. We also have all our previous and soon to be future episodes of the podcast on Apple, Podbean, Spotify, and Google Play. We spend most of our time on Instagram at this.is.bipolar. There is a vibrant community there where we have conversations and post different ideas and different strategies, and we'd just love for you to join us there. It is so helpful if you enjoy our work or think it would be helpful to someone if you could like and share and save and follow us in all or any of those spaces. If you're a listener for the podcast, if you could leave a review, we would be forever grateful. Again, thank you for being here with us. Let's get the word out. Let's share lived experiences so that we can change the ideas that people have about bipolar and help those of us that live with it feel less alone. This is bipolar.